voice samples. Nowadays, we may gripe over the horrible acting in video games.
We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
But in the past, we had to deal with this.
Ready, down!
What was that? It wasn't easy to include voice samples in games before the compact disc came along. The samples had to be compressed in order to fit on the cartridge, and the end result usually sounded overly digitized. But they weren't all bad. Some were amazing for their time, and others still resonate with people today. There are a couple that were more nostalgic than others for us, so I'm going to go over a few. Keep in mind that we weren't around for the earlier consoles, so there won't be anything from the Atari 2600 or ColecoVision. It'll be strictly 3rd and 4th generation gaming. Get ready for our top 5 games with nostalgic voice samples.
Number 5.
Altered Beast. At the very beginning of the game, you are raised from the dead by nothing else but the power of Zeus's magnificent voice.
Rise from your grave.
Thanks, dude. Now I just have to destroy some two-headed wolves in order to
Power up.
The second time you power up, your whole body becomes incredibly bulky, except your head. The third time you become a beast. Okay, I don't know if that's actually a voice sample, but it's pretty cool. You must be in your beast form to fight the stage boss, and once you confront him, you receive a friendly greeting.
Welcome to your doom.
He's such a tough guy, he laughs and steals all your power-ups after you've beaten him.
Number 4.
Skate or Die 2. Why? Here's why. Wow, an NES game that has a theme song with lyrics. It may not be a work of musical genius, but it's worth popping this game in your console just to hear your NES sing to you. So, after the game threatens to kill you, Rodney, the local skate shop owner, welcomes you and gives you some sound advice.
Skate straight.
Oh yeah, and then there's this.
No way, dude!
Classic.
Number 3.
Blades of Steel.
Okay, so the voice samples are nowhere near stunningly clear, but it was 1988 after all. This is definitely one of the best hockey video games of all time. The voice samples are just one of the many small details that make this game so enjoyable. Yeah, the crowd sounds like a dying bird, and the voices are all muffled.
Face off.
But when the announcer says, it makes you want to win even more. Look, even the crowd's really into it.
Number 2.
NBA Jam. After its success in the arcades, NBA Jam was ported to the Genesis and the SNES, so we could experience some good old gravity-defying basketball-playing goodness at home.
He's on fire!
The voice samples in this game also weaseled their way into popular culture.
Boom, Nakalaka!
Kids and adults everywhere were quoting the game. With a new installment scheduled to come out on the Wii, hopefully the NBA Jam lingo will be kept alive for another generation.
Number 1.
Mortal Kombat 2. This game definitely has some of the most recognizable voice samples in any video game. The characters grunt when being attacked or when getting hit, and spout one-liners during special moves.
Come here!
One of the most well-known video game Easter eggs are found in this game as well. And everything the announcer says in this game is classic.
Round 1. Fight. Superb. Friendship. Babality. Finish him. Reptile wins. Fatality.
Okay, enough with the good. Let's move on to the bad. Some voice samples were definitely cringeworthy. Many games would have been better off without them since they don't add anything to the gameplay. But then again, they're always good for a laugh. Let's take a look at our top 5 games with horrible voice samples.
Number 5.
Pro Wrestling. I'll hand it to them, they did make an eye and ear catching intro screen for 1986. Too bad you're left assuming he said fight even though he's giving you a peace sign.
Number 4.
Ring King. I guess that was a word. The voice samples in this game are really nothing more than grunts. Despite the lack of audible voice samples in this game, it's an action-packed game full of hugging and whatever's going on here.
Number 3.
Phalios. This game was ported from the arcade game that was only released in Japan. Honestly, I really like this game. It's a shoot 'em up on a flying horse. This doesn't make up for the horrible voice samples though. Every time an item becomes available, it announces its presence by saying its name. Good thing it also spells out what it is once you catch it, otherwise you'd have no idea what it just said. Your girlfriend also speaks to you in between levels.
I'm being held in the temple. Save me, quickly.
That voice wasn't as bad, but this is the Sega Genesis, so it's fair to expect a little more from it.
Number 2.
Ikari Warriors 2. Ugh, not this game again. This game has tons of faults. The horrible voice samples are just one of them. This is what you hear at the beginning of each level.
Come on, let's fight.
Who's saying that anyway? Is the character in the game talking to the player? Anyway, strangely enough, you have to pay hearts in order to enter a store. Once you do, you might get frightened away by that horrendous sound. Boss battles are also announced by some disembodied voice. This one I'm not so sure on. I think it's saying, "Here it comes." Like Phaleos and many other games with voice samples, this is a port of an arcade game. If you want to hear what the game is truly intended to sound like, you have to check out the arcade version.
Warriors, show some guts. You can't escape me. Come get me if you can.
Now that was awesome. And spooky.
Number 1.
That's right, double dibble. Double dribble. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you put Blades of Steel on the good list and Double Dribble on the bad list? Well, you've got a good point, so we're going to break the rules and give the crown to the arcade version. The game and the voice samples aren't too bad, if you keep in mind this was 1986, but they didn't age very well. While other voice samples on the list are just low quality and hard to understand, the tone of the voice in Double Dribble is just hilarious.
Come on, 3-point shot. Hit under the basket. Block that shot. Keep on rolling. Defense, go. Go.
Also, they didn't get the sneaker sound quite right, making the game hard to listen to. But I digress. Here's the true reason this game received the number 1 position.
Holding can you keep by the dawn's early light? What a